I'm Dana Holgorsen. When disaster strikes your home or business, tell your insurance provider you prefer the restoration company the Mountaineers call. Panhandle Cleaning and Restoration. There's a rumor that we started spring yesterday. I don't really agree with that. We started on Saturday, which you guys will be able to see the guys in an actual helmet and jersey and you know, with the NCAA rules and regulations, you got to have some non-contact practices. We've been, you know, together, I think, with them after recruiting. You know, for this, I believe, is the 4th week. I think Mike had him for like 2 weeks. You know, and then we came back and had some off-season stuff for about 3 weeks. Wanted to get started, which really what we're doing this week isn't any different than what we did last week. It's all, you know, we're still lifting a lot. We're installing things. We've been able to meet with them, you know, for a couple hours a week the previous 3 weeks. That's not a whole lot different than what we're doing this week. Can go do some instructional stuff outside. It is a little bit more beneficial to be able to go out there and count it as one of the 15 days, because we can use a ball and stay out there for some, you know, some real non-competitive stuff. You know, so that's where we're currently at. And we'll do the same stuff tomorrow, and you know, we're not out there very long, and it doesn't even really look like football. But Saturday, we'll turn the page and start having a little bit of resistance with each other. So you guys know the schedule. That's why we're doing that. I haven't really explained that to anybody. There was an article written yesterday, I guess, that explains everything else that we're doing in spring. So I'm not going to go into it. If you guys got questions, we will we can talk about them. But you know, excited about this group, 2018 group. Probably the most veterans, obviously offensively the most veteran unit that we've had since I've been here. Defensively, feel good about it just based on Gibby going into I guess the 5th year. It seems like he's been here for a while. He's been here 6 years. He's been here forever, but coordinator aspect of it for the 6th year gives everybody comfort. And you know, just like where the guys are right now, and wanted to get started. So looking forward to a good spring. You know, I like how it's broke up. You think it will reduce the monotony of spring football that everybody deals with. You can say, well, how can you get tired of practicing football? Well, I can assure you these guys get tired of practicing football in the spring now. So being able to have breaks with spring practice and with Easter break, I think will break up that monotony aspect of it, and then we'll finish earlier than we ever have. Which means we'll have more time to heal and get ready for the actual season. So, you know, the 6th and 7th of April should be a good spring weekend. You're flipping coins on whether the weather is going to be appropriate or not. Nothing you can do about that, so you just deal with it and roll through it. But it'll be a good weekend. Obviously, it's a big weekend with, you know, WVU Athletics and WVU Medicine Children's, the relationship that exists there. My man Wolf here does a great job of cultivating this relationship as well. But the whole weekend's going to be about the kids, obviously football, and then the kids as well. You know, put something out on my Twitter a little bit ago just as far as the partnership that football has with Jeff Hostetler, who that relationship's existed for many years, and want to continue to strengthen that relationship. He does such a great job over at the hospital, you know, with his foundation, the Haas Foundation. You know, he built the Family Resource Center over there, which I've been over there hanging out a little bit. I know Wolf's been over there. A lot of our players go over there, you know, every week to show support, and we're trying to strengthen that relationship and do even more than we have, and do even more than we're currently doing. This is an opportunity to be able to do that, try to raise some money with an event at Kegler's on Friday night. You know, and then there's a 5K run in the morning. We're going to do my walk. I'm old and broke down and stressed out, so I go on 2.5-mile walks all the time, and so, you know, people are going to be able to do that, and obviously just raise money for the House Foundation to be able to do things for the hospital over there. So that's awesome. Then and then just like we have every single year, the $10 ticket price to get into the game, that's going straight to WVU Medicine Children's as well. So we're excited about that weekend to wrap up spring before we end up finishing the last couple of weeks off academically. So that's where we're at currently. You know, from staffing perspective, you know, everybody understands, you know, added Marquell Blackwell, you know, wish Tony Dews the best of luck in the NFL. He's always wanted to be there, so he has an opportunity to do that. I don't get bent out of shape whatsoever if guys make moves that they've always dreamed of doing, you know, and then it's my job to see if we can try to hire somebody better. And really like Coach Blackwell. He's, you know, got a great football background, you know, great recruiting presence to him. So he's already fit in nicely, like where he's at, you know. And then, you know, we've added some good young coaches as well. You know, you'll see some familiar faces out there from you know, Julian Miller on the D-line to Mike Molinari, you know, that can help out with some specialists. Tyler Orlowski on the O-line. You know, even got some strength guys that you're going to recognize out there as well. So good West Virginia presence, former player presence, that anytime you have opportunities to be able to get those guys on board, I think it's important to be able to do that. So like where the staff's at, a lot of continuity with some new blood as well. And that's about it. I think that's all I got. Take a few questions here before we wrap it up.
Nuts and bolts of who can play, who can't play this spring. I mean, injuries.
Yeah, I'll tell you who's out for spring. David Long's out. You know, he had his shoulder rehabbing nicely. The worst thing in the world that happened to Lamont McDougal was having shoulder surgery the same day as David Long. So they rehab together like every day, and David is an absolute machine, and Lamont is young and big. So he struggles every day. Those two are progressing nicely. They'll be 100% in summer. You know, you'd wish Lamont could go through spring. Being young, we don't care if David goes through spring or not. X-Relo had a pec injury. He'll be out for a couple months. Is not going to be able to participate through spring. And that's it. You know, everybody else is good to go, healthy. You know, should be a lot of competition. You know, the 8 or 9 guys that we added, I believe that information's out there, the early enrollees and all that, which adds depth and adds competition. You know, as much as we can get competition in there, the better. You know, side note, grad students that are leaving, you know, Chris Chugnoff is going to graduate and move on. Certainly appreciate everything that he's done for the 4 years that he's been here. Jalil Fields is going to graduate and move on. I think he's got 3 hours. Did a good job at everything that we asked him to do since he's been here. Ricky Rogers, grad student, moving on. You know, can't say enough about those guys. They're, you know, 4-year guys that you know, they graduated. What more? That's kind of the goal, is it not? So, you know, those guys are going to move on, and wish them the best of luck with whatever they decide to do, which I don't think any of them really has a real option or a real, you know, sound decision made as far as what they're going to do with the rest of their life. But always be a Mountaineer, man. You come here and you get a good degree. All 3 of them had great GPAs. Then they can come back and they'll be welcome here as often as they want.
How's Will been doing since his?
Good. Yeah, he you know, he kind of played a little soft toss in the bowl game, you know, out there. But you know, he took the month of January and they started throwing with him. It was interesting in talking to the doctors and all that. I mean, you say, well, he's good, he can grip a ball, so just go ahead and start ripping it. But if you don't use these muscles up here for about 6 months, then you need to be smart, because if you get out there and start ripping it around without these muscles developing, then you can do some real long-term damage. So they put him on a pitch count in January, which, you know, cranked up. And by the time we got here, after recruiting in February, he's been 100% full go. looks good physically, sounds good mentally. You know, really is he's exactly what you want in a fifth-year senior. I mean, it's just things are slower to him, and you know, he's out there coaching those other quarterbacks. You know, Jack Allison and Trey Young, he's out there coaching those guys up, which that's what you're after, you know.
Trey Young.
Yeah, what'd I say? Did I say Trey Young? Has anybody heard of somebody by the name of that? Yeah, evidently it is. I mean, heck of a player. But I'm sorry, Trey Lowe.
On that topic, one less than maybe I think people expected when they walk in today, but is Trey Young does he make? It's your fault. Does he make? Does he factor in? Is he still playing outfield?
He is. He is. We got to remind Maisie who pays the bills. He traveled with. If he ain't got anything going on, he can go practice as much as he wants to. I don't. That's fine with me. I mean, he's done it his whole life. He's been a multi-sport star. He's coach's kid. He's smart. He's got great presence to him. You know, he's mature. You know, he traveled with them to Myrtle last weekend, and they played 4 games, I believe, and you know, he didn't play, so I think he's a developmental guy for them too. So you know, but the way that works, you know, if we got practice this weekend, then he's probably going to be here practicing this weekend. If they're going to use him in a game, then I may let them skip a practice in order for them to be able to play him in a game. And I've talked to Randy about this, but he's pretty important to what our future is here. So there is a expectation of him being able to, and he has, and he does. He sits in all the meetings, and you know, has got a great attitude. He's exactly what you want in a kid that really actually should be in high school.
Andy, do you have, with Jaleel out and Lamont gone, or hurt, do you have enough defensive linemen to get through spring?
We're thin, you know, and we're not in the best position there. We feel good about Zeke Rose. He's taken on a huge leadership role. You know, had a great year and just kept getting better and better and better. You know, and Reese, you know, Donahue, I mean, those guys are real solid. They give us a good base, you know, right there. But, you know, Darius Stills is playing nose now. You know, he's got a nose tackle body. You know, and then Brennan Thrift is a guy that's thick that we're putting in there as well. You know, so, but we're thin. You know, you got Stone Wolfley and Jeff Pooler, who are younger guys who are at that point where they need to start contributing a little bit more than they have. Other than that, we're looking for freshmen to come in and play, and we're probably still beating down the bushes out there for some transfer guys that might be able to come in and play as well. It's a concern right now. We're out there looking to see if we can fix it.
Overall goals you want to accomplish this spring for the team, and also part 2, what you want to instill or install in this team through spring practice.
Oh, I just competition more than anything. I mean, there's all kinds of things that we'll talk about over the next 15 days from, you know, and the list that I have is too long to get into, you know, but just, you know, looking back at what every year is different. I mean, I sit in front of them and I say, look, guys, in 2017, we turned the ball over more than anybody in the Big 12. You think I'm probably going to say it to them? Yeah, I am. Okay, and we'll focus hard and we'll do different things to be able to you know, emphasize, you know, not turning the ball over, so to speak. You know, there's been in years past we've had less fumbles than anybody in the Big 12. We've thrown less interceptions than anybody in the Big 12. I don't think it's anything that we're doing from a practice point of view or you know, an emphasis point of view. It's just, you know, you look back at what you did and talk about how you're going to get better. With that said, this 2018 is a different team than 2017. You know, and we got to understand that. We got to really just sit there and practice and identify our guys and identify the position battles and figure out, you know, who this team is and who's going to start before we figuring out what kind of team this is and what kind of goals we need to set.
So, when you you went back and looked at self-scouted yourself, was there anything that you did that you were like, well, we did this better than we thought we did?
We improved our scoring. We finished drives better with touchdowns. I think we're about 68%, you know, which was higher than it's been here in the past. The last couple of years, you know, and you guys we've had multiple conversations about this. Need to score a little bit more. Got to finish drives with touchdowns better. We did that pretty good last year. I think the Will Greer, David Sills connection had something to do with that. You know, on the flip side, we've been pretty good at preventing touchdowns, you know, drives ending with touchdowns. Well, we weren't very good with that last year, you know. So that's one example. And again, there ain't enough time in this to be able to say we got to improve on this. You know, our punt coverage has been pretty good the last couple of years. It wasn't very good last year, and you know, Billy had something to do with that. Our personnel had something to do with that. We didn't do a very good job. Got to improve on that. You know, punt return was not just great. I mean, you look at it, and I don't measure punt return with how many yards per return we have. That's the stat that they keep, but to me that's irrelevant. I mean, I thought we did a great job of fielding the thing and having some space to field it. We just didn't get any of them out, you know, and we'll emphasize that, you know. What's the margin between punt and punt return? That's another example. I probably got about 15 to 18 more examples that we can gauge where we're at offensively and defensively, and we'll do that in-house, and it's going to take a bunch of time to be able to get our points across. We'll take something a day, and we'll try to get a little bit better at it. And that ain't going to change over summer, and that ain't going to change in August either.
You mentioned some special team stuff, but place kicker, you have a couple of guys. Do you spend any time on that in the spring, or do you just compete with them?
They'll start compete. They started competing yesterday. You know, what Mike Molinari is going to be a great charter, which that's what his job is the chart. Well, he sits there and we're going to come up with a bunch of different ways of these guys being able to compete against each other. You know, Evan was a guy that was really, really, really different towards the end of the year than he was during the beginning of the year. His improvement and his ceiling gets me really excited, you know. And then you add a guy like Skylar Simcox, who is Lou Groza finalist a couple years ago. That breeds competition. So, you know, being able to put those guys in as many different practice situations as we possibly can to be able to let those guys compete, I think will pay dividends, you know. And need to do the same thing at punter. We've got the same thing going on at long snapper. And over the course of time, we'll figure out who gives us the best chance to win and what their roles and what their jobs exactly are. Don't know right now.
Your use of tight end, a little change, a big change moving forward?
It'd be a big change moving forward. You know, the couple bodies. You know, Wesco's a different body than Eli. You know, so we'll be able to do different things, you know, and then Giovanni Haskins is a different body than what we've had here since I've been here, you know, and then we got a couple that we recruited that are coming in as well. So I think and we're still playing with stuff. So what the end result is, I don't know, but it's pretty exciting to be able to mess around with that stuff, that's for sure.
Anna, did you add anybody on scholarship this year? Or?
Not yet. We will have room to add a couple. I could probably tell you who they are, and I think I'd probably end up being right, but I'd rather let those guys compete hard in spring and summer before we technically can put them on. We can't put them on right now without triggering initials and all that, which we can't do. But it'll happen probably sometime this summer.
The Allison kid, how does he look?
Jack, good, tall, spins it around pretty good. Is still young, hadn't played a lot. You know, did a good job on scout team for us all year. Gives us a good another option at quarterback. I will say this. I figured out if you don't want short quarterbacks, don't recruit short quarterbacks. Not to say I don't. You know, they've had some great shorter quarterbacks out there. That's been excellent. But those three look different than what we've had.
What do you expect from your running game? little bit different.
Need improvement, yeah. I don't know if we're going to have a feature 1,000-yard guy. That'll work itself out. But, you know, the three we got back there now with Kennedy and Martell and Sink, those guys look pretty good to me, and it's going to be fun to watch those guys compete. And, you know, the run game probably is a little bit more – it has a little bit more to do with what those guys up front are doing, how they're targeted, and how much mass they have and how they can move people. I think we'll have a ton of success with it. You know, exactly who are going to be the guys that are going to end up doing that, don't know.
Any significant position changes?
Well, it's written. I guess there's an article written about that. That I didn't know about, but there's some, I think they were mentioned. You know, I mentioned the nose. Tonk's going to Mike. Pitts is going to corner, which this is not unusual at all for spring practice. You know, Drayvon's going to spur. Drayvon's played them all. He's been here as long as I have. He's going to spur. Timmons is going to fullback. Don't know if that's a big deal. That's about it. And we'll move guys around some. You know, what the depth chart is and what it's going to be, I can assure you, is two totally different things.